Now to a heartbreaking story that has led to a remarkable initiative. In 2019, UCT student Uyinene Mrwetyana was raped and murdered after being lured to the Claremont post office by employee Luyanda Botha. Now, he's currently serving life in prison. Mrwetyana's tragic story, of course, shocked all of us. It dominated our news for many weeks. It's been about 3.5 years since she died. Once the headlines stop, what does a devastated family do to carry on living? Well, if you're Noma Mretyana, Nene's mum, you not only survive, you create something to help protect other young women and guide our young men away from violent behaviour. Noma joins us now. Thank you so much for your time. We know that your foundation was launched in 2019 and you have a new initiative which is launching this weekend. But before we go to that, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge your terrible loss and to ask you, over 3 years on, do the days get easier?
Good evening, Sally, and good evening to your viewers, the viewers of eNCA. Thank you for having me. That's quite a difficult question. As a family, I must say that we have learned to cope with the situation. It will never go away, obviously, but we've managed over the past 3 years to develop new ways of managing and coping with the difficulty. And this has been done through the support of many people for all walks of life, through the support of family, our loved ones, as well as our spirituality has helped us. And also seeking professional help has also assisted us as a family. Sally, to be honest, I must say that as much as we are doing this work, as you indicated earlier on, we still do have our moments. And especially when the scourge of gender-based violence continues to take place in our country, many a times it takes us back to our own experience. That's where we are. We are trying to push the legacy of Uyinene through the foundation. However, we still do have our own moments. It's a reality that she's no longer around, but what else can we do? All we are doing is to transform our pain into a purpose, and that purpose is to assist young people, boys and girls, and all the vulnerable groups in our country to ensure that no other family experiences what we went through and what we are continuing to go through as emotions change on a daily basis. I would say that's where we are. We are learning to cope.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Sally. Yeah.
I would imagine that when such a devastation happens to a family, you have a choice. You have a choice whether to become angry and bitter and close in on yourselves, or to use it as an opportunity to say, we will not be defeated. In her honour, we will live on and do good, which is clearly the choice that you and your family have made, which is amazing and remarkable. Talk to me a little bit more about the sports development program that you're launching on Saturday, because what's so fascinating about it is it's not aimed at women, though you have, obviously, your foundation supports women. This is targeting boys and men. And this is such an important point that our young men have to be educated about gender-based violence, about how to treat women. How's this all going to work?
Thank you very much, Sally. This is in line with one of the strategic goals of the foundation that speaks to developing the youth of the country. Because Uyinene was a young person, we have been intentional about the fact that we want to develop young people. We want to catch them as they are still young. You know, there's a saying in Xhosa that says, meaning catch them whilst they are still young. And we're intentional this year. We work with a group of young activists and young, brilliant young people who are part of the advisory board of this foundation. And this year, they specifically said, you know what, it is very difficult in our quest to develop young men. it is quite difficult to organize them into a space where they are comfortable and where they can have a conversation about gender-based violence in a very, free manner. This is also quite very difficult, especially in less developed communities, that is your rural areas. So we were intentional this year about the fact that this year our focus is going to be on the boy child. We want to develop young boys and young men to be responsible, compassionate and caring men. And we want to do this through a space where they will be comfortable, through sport. Our history in South Africa tells us that sport has been very useful in bringing communities together, especially, your boys. So we are using the business of sport as a vehicle, to organize these young men and develop them holistically, to be compassionate, caring, and responsible young men. And this speaks of obviously to the vision of the foundation, where we want to see a South Africa that is free of gender-based violence, and specifically by ensuring that we focus on both young women and young men, but specifically this year we are focusing on young men, because some of the topics that we'll cover, through this program, through mentors like their coaches or assistant coaches, these topics are taboo. And we want them to be in a space where they are comfortable to be in a conversation and take over the space, of gender-based violence and talk freely about gender-based violence whilst we are developing them holistically.
You speak about mentors, and I see that you've got Sibusiso Zuma, who's a former Bafana midfielder, on board. And I think this is such a crucial issue, that for boys to have someone they look up to as a bit of a hero who's saying, this is how you treat women. That is so important to lead the way through those examples. So you're launching on Saturday. It's a focus on boys and men. And I want to ask you, have you, through this process, been able to perhaps forgive or maybe just understand what drove Luyanda Botha to do what he did to your daughter?
We have not been really specifically focused on him, but research, and I'm sure probably do understand that by profession, a psychologist. So we do understand as psychologists that there are certain personalities that would usually do this. Because of psychological underlying issues. However, one of the things what we're trying to do at this point is the socialization, of young people, the patriarchal culture that they grow, up in, the violent communities that they grow, up under, or family backgrounds, that are very violent. We have never specifically studied his background as a person, but generally research does show that the socialization of young men does play a huge role, the environment and all the patriarchal, attitudes, and ways of thinking and looking, at women. So that's what we're trying to challenge. These are the attitudes that we want to deal with. We want to redirect and reshape these masculinities, to be more positive, caring, compassionate, and for these young men to be men that will respect women.
Absolutely. And you know what? You make such an important point about the reality is changing attitudes is a one-on-one conversation. It's in small groups. It's being exposed to men who honour women. And your initiative sounds amazing. We have to close, but just very briefly, is it a football club that you're launching, and where is it happening exactly?
We are very excited, Sally. We are launching the Uyinene Mrwetyana Football Club. We are launching this Saturday the 10th of June, in her hometown, her place of origin, that is Trendane, in the rural of the former Transkei, in a small village called Pina location. That's where all the roads are heading to this weekend. We invite people to join us, and we invite any form of support that will ensure that this program becomes a success. And we do want to thank those who have already shown support, like the Siso Zuma Foundation, MultiChoice. We do want to thank SPA, the community at large, and everyone who is in support of this initiative.
Well, it sounds amazing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, and all strength to you and your wonderful initiatives. And may you find great comfort as you move forward. We really do appreciate your time and being so open with us. Thank you so much. That's Noma Mretyana. She, of course, is mother of Uyinene, who was raped and murdered by post office worker Luyanda Botha in Claremont in 2019. The Uyinene Mrwetyana Foundation is now launching a sports development program for young men this weekend.